Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Hub at Path Superstar Series podcast, where we get to highlight amazing individuals working in the Fedcap Employment Services Network. It's a boots-on-the-ground look at the everyday hero. It's our love letter from the front line to the front line, and it starts right now. So what makes a superstar?
A superstar is someone who may not have had the straightest line in their career path, somebody who has transferable skills, and somebody that wants to help people.
Administration and organization, interpersonal skills, problem-solving skills, knowledge of employer resources, and employer relations. If you have 3 of these, you're good. If you have 4, you're great. If you have 5, well, that makes you a superstar.
I think just being a really good active listener is, step 1 in this field.
For me, it's heart and grit.
I think if I could sum that up in one word, would be consistency. So whatever you are consistent at and work towards, you become great at and you become a superstar.
Our guest today is Bryan Rehkopf. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We'll start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, how long you've been in employment services, and what you basically do.
All right. Well, my journey, I've had a lot of different jobs early on through college and stuff like that. But one of my major kind of first consistent job, I guess, would be handling business accounts for a Rogers dealer. So I had the business kind of connections and, dealings that way. And then I moved into retail to be a retail manager, which is interesting because with retail, you deal with all different types of customers and situations, and you're managing a team of people, and, you have to keep that motivation going and results and all that. But it was time to get out of retail, and I had a great opportunity as a business development coordinator at a theme park in Niagara. And it was organizing events and still dealing with business, so it was kind of full circle. And it was funny because one day a coworker who had previously been in social services just turned around one day and said to me, "You know what you'd be good at?" I said, "Like what?" She goes, "You'd be a good employment coach." I went, "What's that?" Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And I literally had to look up like what an employment coach was, but she told me. And I said, that'd be a cool gig. Like that'd be a cool job. And time went on and months went on, and she had since left where we worked together. And I messaged her after and I said, "Can you tell me a little bit more about this employment coach? Who hires? Like, what's this all about?" So literally, maybe timing, I don't know, but I came across an ad for YMCA employment, or YMCA of Niagara employment. And I looked into it more and I applied. I had the background in the schooling, from before, which helped. And talk about full circle though. Oh my gosh. And it was my first kind of introduction into working at a nonprofit, organization. And it's been awesome.
I mean, I think that's so not common, but like how it's all of these different parts of us that make us sort of really good at employment services. Because if you ask me my background, let's say, I never would have even had employment services on my radar. I spent a lot of time, the beginning of my career in human services. I was in youth custody. But that is a completely different world. But I love when I hear you say like, "Oh, I did retail management," because I feel like those skills, while there is no direct line to any of those things, when they come together in one person, those are all of the skills that you need to be great at this job, right? Like managing people's expectations, managing emotions, helping people through things comes from a bunch of different sources. And I love hearing how people get to their work now, because it's never like, oh, I've always had this clear, direct path. And I think that's so indicative of humans in general, but specifically the ones that come into our offices. Like they haven't had a direct path. If they did, they'd be working. They've come to us because there's something either in their way, or they've sort of meandered this way and came back the other way. And so I guess it's always so interesting to me when I hear people's stories of how they got here, and my own as well, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know that this is a job. And then they also don't know what it entails. And having been in it now for a little bit, I'm curious, what aspect of employment services are you currently working in? So are you an employment counselor or a job developer, or do you guys do everything?
Well, I'm an employment coach, but we also do, job developing as well as is a portion of it. And connecting, with different businesses, connecting with your team, through their resources, which is huge. I'm fairly new at this position, so I'm just shy of 2 years. So to be 2 years in September.
Okay. So what was the biggest change from your first position to this one?
In what?
In employment, like being in your employment coach. I guess it's funny. Everyone has different names, but they're all like very similar. So I would assume employment coach is the same as an employment counselor.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I've only known it as an employment coach.
So from your most recent position to this one, what was the biggest learning piece for you that you needed to do?
I've stayed in the same position, like since I started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And did you come on before the transformation or after? I forget where Niagara was in it. So you've always worked under Fedcap?
It was just new.
Okay.
Fedcap was just new. So I really didn't know pre.
That's really good though,
Fedcap.
because now this is your full understanding is this new model.
Right.
And
like I hear about how it was.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But I only know this, which, to your point, I think is a little bit of an advantage because I don't know any different.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And what would you say motivates you to come into work every day?
I think just helping people, and it's not, I don't necessarily want to say helping people, but it's just giving people a new, maybe a different angle of looking at something, giving them something else to consider or a different way. And in turn, their life changes and you were a part of that. And it's like, that's just amazing. I'm very, very fortunate that I get to do this job, was given a chance to do it. So, waking up, I'm raring to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
really
so
am.
good.
Yeah.
Would you say that your client base has stayed the same or has changed over the last 2 years?
It's grown.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like as far as, I think the longer that I do this, of course, the different, different types of clients, different types of situations come up. I'm still learning how to deal with different, people, that come from just different experiences. So, I think everything's new, but most important for me, I really take each client and it's almost like a clean slate, like you're meeting somebody brand new. And that's what's exciting too. I love meeting different people and learning about them and just kind of coming from where they're at. If they're at a certain point, I have to meet them there and we can grow together. I can't be the, rah if they're not at that point. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that it's often, not often, that's not maybe fair, but if you come in more like gung-ho or like guns blazing, then the client comes in and they're maybe a little bit weary or nervous, then it can be super overwhelming and it almost hinders the process instead of like sweeping up into momentum, which is, I'm a very emphatic person, I would say. So I've had to sort of learn to really listen and like temper my excitement for them in order to match pace with where the client is at. And I think that's a really good skill. So the fact that that they have someone who's willing to go through that with them is sort of the essence of employment services, right? Like trying to connect with someone who's going through ultimately a difficult time and being a person they can bounce ideas off of. I'm just thinking now, what's the weirdest thing someone asked you to get them a job in?
What's the weirdest thing?
That you've never heard of as a job before. I have one if you don't have
one. You go first and I'll think.
Okay.
I'll still listen to you.
Yeah. I never knew this was a thing, but apparently there are people who x-ray sewer systems underneath intersections for construction. And I can't even tell you what the official name is because I've forgotten. It was so long ago. But probably my first week working at Path, someone asked me to help them get into that. And I was like, oh, I'm so out of my depth. I have no idea. And I had to do a bunch of research. But I think that it's also exposed, like this work has exposed me to so much of how like our cities work and our society works that I maybe didn't have that context before.
But I like that too, because they're at a point where there's possibilities, and when you can say to somebody, I don't care how weird it is or whatever, like, what are your interests? Like, what do you like? I do have one example. I didn't even plan for this one, but it was one client. He was just doing, your survival type jobs. I think it was like whether or not it was retail or
Sure.
And which is fine, but I think he was burnt out on that. He just, the prospect of just getting into another, type of job that he was doing was kind of just deflating. And I just said to him, what do you love? Like, aside from work and stuff like that, just, tell me what you're really interested in. He goes, I love doing like, audio, video, like that type of work. And I said, okay, so that's pretty interesting. So let's kind of dive into seeing, what type of work out there exists. And he goes, what are you talking about? Right. So that became kind of on the radar. And long story long is he's ended up getting an opportunity at a church doing their audio and video. And this guy comes to me and says, like, I'm doing what I love and I'm getting paid for it. Like, this is crazy. And so you nailed it. Like, that's the dream, right?
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I love those moments because they're not really on your bingo card. Like, you're going to find that one really niche thing. But I've noticed in this work that just being open is sort of like the first step to maybe magic happening. Yeah. Like, that guy had absolutely no idea what to ask for when he first met you.
Right.
But through working together, you uncovered something amazing. That's so cool.
And in my job changed from retail to being a business development coordinator, event planner. I just threw it out there to myself and just said, I would love 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, like something consistent. Retail was the exact opposite of that. And all of a sudden, once it's on your radar, that's what you're looking for. And I ended up and I thought at the time, you're crazy. Like, you're never going to find that. But I still had it on my radar, and I ran into a job and got it with 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And I'm like, wow, But yeah, it's just kind of putting it on the radar, putting it out there. And
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So on the same sort of length, can you tell me about a client story that sort of stuck with you?
Yeah. So actually, I think it was my first official client. So I'm brand new. He was from Bahamas, came to Canada, had welding experience, like a background, and then some labor type jobs. Came here, he was super energetic, super personable, great guy, great outlook. We kind of tailored he just wanted a Canadian work experience. So we catered his resume, worked on his resume for like a labor type role. And he started applying for jobs, we were meeting, consistently. And this one time he came in and it was like I've never seen him. He was like really low. Nobody's calling me back. I'm applying here. He's a very organized guy. He says, I'm thinking of giving up. Like, this is hopeless. So I just said to him, you're a great guy. You're personable. You have everything going for you. You've got a great outlook. I think you just need to keep at it. If you give up and you don't try anymore, then you have zero chance, right? So, and I said, the time of getting a job, it varies. So sometimes it doesn't happen super quick. So you do have to, there's an element of patience there. And anyways, I ended up talking to a coworker who had a great lead as looking for a welder. So we worked on a resume, welding, focused resume, and then we applied, and he got the job. And this note that he had sent me after about not giving up, on him, always believing in him. Yeah. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
And you were hooked because that's your first one.
My first client, and I'm kind of tearing up here, right? But it was cool.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things that I really relish in this type of work, is that it doesn't seem like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because this is our day in and day out.
Right. Yeah.
But these are such pivotal moments in people's lives.
Yeah.
And to be just even a small part of that is really moving and powerful.
Well, and for my first go, and, I thought maybe I could be okay at this, and so it was a good first introduction for sure. Yeah.
Out of the park home run.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was very fortunate to meet a great guy.
Yeah. Amazing. So I guess the next part that I ask about is a challenge. So have you ever had a situation where things were not going well, and how did you navigate that? What did you do?
Yep. So I was really thinking about this. It was a client who was a return client. So we had to do an assessment again, like an initial assessment. So we had brought him back on for services, and there's like an intro workshop that we do. So I invited him to it. I was thinking maybe it's like a refresher, just an intro. Hey, welcome to our services, and go over kind of, what we offer. And I got an email the next day, kind of not a very nice email. saying that he felt, silly being there. He had no idea why I would ask him to attend. And, initially I wanted to go, initially you want to maybe just stand up for yourself and, kind of back your decision. But this is where my retail management came in. And I thought, if somebody's having, an issue with something, I've got to kind of look at myself first and what could have I done differently, or could have I changed something? And so I messaged them and I just said, what, great input. I appreciate your honesty, and maybe going forward, as a learning exercise for me, I may, in a similar circumstance, I may explain, the workshop a little bit better, to another client, and kind of, eliminate from this happening again. And he came back and he apologized for his email, and that, he shouldn't have spoke like that. But we had a nice little chat. So it was, it was just an exercise for me to kind of, look at myself first, what could have I done different and handled it different. So I practiced doing that with other clients too. So
I think that's so important, because perfect is never going to happen. But recovering the relationship, that the coach-client relationship after a misstep, and being able to move forward in a healthy way by being open and honest, saying like, oh yeah, maybe that wasn't the best one to refer you to. Thank you for telling me you felt that way. It almost gives them, it gives the client a platform to be an equal partner, because sometimes there's a power dynamic, right? They feel like, oh, I have to go to this person. They're a gatekeeper in order for me to find employment. And then also when they maybe don't behave as professionally because there's some emotions involved, some anger, to be the type of coach that takes that apology genuinely and says, okay, let's move forward together.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful in terms of relationship maintenance and how to navigate those tricky things, which is really important, because it could have gone the other way. Could have gotten a next person involved, escalated it. You didn't hear me, you didn't understand me, blah, blah, blah. And I think when push comes to shove in those moments, when you show your humanity and your humility, and maybe model like, okay, maybe I got this, not 100%.
Yeah.
That also directly relates to how they can receive criticism and critical feedback in the workplace, which might be a goal for a client, right?
Yeah.
Like, instead of flying off the handle, okay, well, this wasn't 100%, so how can we fix that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe too, like, this is just my own thing. I think, you can't change someone, but you can indirectly maybe influence them with, so maybe he may take the way that I responded to that situation, or maybe take that to, a situation that he has, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Proudest moment.
I had a really successful first year. I think it goes from September to September. No, April to April.
April to April.
Yeah, sorry. And I had a really, successful first full year. And YMCA of Niagara Employment Immigrant Services was nice enough to, acknowledge that internally. And I think that would be my proudest moment. And I just continuing on. And I really love what I'm doing.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's really good. And my last question is sort of a fun one, not too serious, but my dream is to build a podcast playlist of pump up jams, or all of our guests contribute one song. So my scenario is, if you were a WWE wrestler, what would your intro song be?
So at the risk that somebody else says Don't Stop Believing by Journey, because it's a pretty cool tune, I'm going to say Eye of the Tiger by Survivor.
Amazing.
Did somebody else say that yet?
Not yet, but that's a great one.
All right.
Amazing. Thanks so much for being on.
Absolutely.
That's the end.